Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. We've got biographies, letters, case files, a whole stack of material.
The man behind Sherlock Holmes, of course.
Of course. But our mission today is to get past the famous detective. We want to explore the man himself, the doctor, the sportsman, the real-life investigator.
And, maybe most surprisingly, the spiritualist who believed in fairies.
It's a huge contradiction, right? You
Yeah.
have the creator of this beacon of logic.
Who ends up, chasing ghosts in his later years. It's a fascinating story.
So let's start with the achievements. The sheer volume of the Holmes work is it's staggering. 4 novels, 56 short stories.
But if you read his letters, he didn't even like it that much. He saw Holmes as a burden.
A burden, really.
Yeah, and a paycheck. He desperately wanted to be known for his historical novels like The White Company. He thought that was his real art.
It's so ironic. He even got his knighthood, not for Holmes, but for a political pamphlet about the Boer War.
Right. But for me, the most amazing thing he did wasn't the writing at all. It was his real-life detective work.
You're talking about the George Adalji case.
Exactly. Adalji was a lawyer, wrongly convicted of mutilating animals. The police were convinced it was him.
And Doyle stepped in.
He did. He used his own deductive methods, just like Holmes, and proved Adalji was innocent.
And that wasn't just, a one-off thing. It had huge consequences.
It did. That case helped establish the Court of Criminal Appeal in England. He literally changed the British legal system.
So where does someone like that come from? Let's rewind a bit. His early life in Edinburgh, it wasn't easy.
Not at all. He was born in 1859. His father was an alcoholic and was eventually institutionalized. The family was scattered for a while.
And his education was intense, a Jesuit school.
Which he hated. He called the principles medieval.
Mm.
But interestingly, he later said that all that rote learning was like a mental dumbbell.
A mental dumbbell.
Now, that forcing himself through it actually made his mind stronger.
That pattern of turning failure into growth seems to be a theme. He studies medicine, sets up a practice.
With less than 10 pounds in his pocket.
And he had no patience. None.
0. But that's the key. If his practice had been a success, he would have been a busy doctor.
And we probably never would have gotten a study in Scarlet.
Exactly. The silence gave him the time to write. And he didn't just invent Holmes' methods either.
Right. This comes from his university professor, Joseph Bell.
Bell was this brilliant doctor who could just look at a patient and deduce their profession, where they'd been.
Just from their hands or their walk.
And Doyle later wrote to him saying, "It is most certainly to you that I owe Sherlock Holmes."
Wow, he just gave him the credit straight up.
You did.
There's a real lesson in resilience here. Because even after Holmes was a success, he tried to pivot again. He opens an ophthalmology practice in London.
And guess what happens?
Let me guess.
0 patients.
0 patients, again. But he just funneled that failure back into his writing and became one of the highest paid authors of his time. It's easy to think of him as this purely logical, intellectual guy, but he was also incredibly physical.
Oh, yeah. He was a goalkeeper, a cricketer. He even judged the world's first ever bodybuilding competition.
And he introduced skiing to Switzerland. He crossed an alpine pass on skis when everyone said it was impossible.
Which brings us to the biggest contradiction of all. He's a logical, physical, rational man.
Becomes a passionate believer in spiritualism. He championed the Cottingley Fairies photographs.
It's hard for people to square that circle. But you have to look at the context. This was after World War I.
They lost so many people. His son, his brother.
Exactly. An entire generation was wiped out by the logic of war. You can see why he might search for hope somewhere else, even in things that seemed impossible.
So it wasn't a failure of intellect, it was grief.
I think so. For all his talk of wanting to slay Holmes for taking his mind from better things, Doyle was a deeply emotional man. His very last words spoken to his wife.
You are wonderful.
Just that.
So here's the final thought for you to chew on. Doyle was a seeker of truth his whole life, whether through a microscope or at a seance. Does being a seeker mean you only accept what's proven? Or does it mean having the courage to explore what isn't?
That really is the question, isn't it?
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.